The ocean was calm when it arrived. A ship that shouldn't exist. A warship unlike any seen before, with armor that gleamed like obsidian under the sun, and weapons that defied all logic. The world's militaries scrambled to understand where it had come from, until it opened fire. Not against them, against the alien invaders. For the past 3 months, Earth had been under siege. The Zithar Dominion had arrived in a fleet of black, angular warships, burning cities and crushing armies with effortless brutality. Their technology was centuries ahead of anything humanity had, their weapons capable of reducing entire battalions to dust in seconds. No government had been able to stand against them. The world had fractured under the weight of an enemy that saw humans as nothing more than pests to be exterminated. But then, the warship appeared. It came from the depths of the Pacific, rising from the water like an ancient god. It bore no flag, no insignia. It sent no messages. It simply attacked. The first engagement took place near the ruins of San Diego. A Zithar dreadnought hovered over the charred remains of the city, preparing for another bombing run. Then, without warning, a volley of glowing blue projectiles ripped through the sky, shattering the dreadnought's shields as if they were made of glass. The warship emerged from the mist, silent and deadly, unleashing a storm of firepower that tore through the alien hull with impossible precision. Within minutes, the dreadnought was falling, crashing into the ocean in a burning wreck. The world watched in awe. Who commanded this ship? Where had it come from? The battle wasn't over. More Zithar ships swarmed toward the lone warship, eager to destroy the unexpected threat. But the ship didn't flee. It fought back. And it won. Missiles that bent around shields. Railguns that fired slugs at speeds no one had ever seen before. A hull that regenerated damage before the enemy could land a second blow. The warship moved like a ghost, anticipating every attack before it was made. It was as if it knew the Zithar, as if it had fought them before. Humanity, once doomed, now had a glimmer of hope. Whoever, or whatever, commanded the warship had chosen a side. And it was fighting for them. The world was in chaos. But for the first time in months, there was something other than fear. There was hope. News of the mysterious warship spread like wildfire. Governments, broken and scattered, scrambled to regain control. Survivors in hiding whispered of salvation. The resistance fighters, who had been fighting a losing war against the Zithar, felt their resolve harden. If this ship was on humanity's side, then maybe, just maybe, they had a chance. But no one knew why it was fighting for them. In a hidden underground bunker beneath what remained of Washington, D.C., General Elias Warren sat with his remaining advisors, staring at a live satellite feed of the Pacific Ocean. The warship had disappeared beneath the waves after the battle in San Diego, vanishing without a trace. It was unlike any known vessel, its technology beyond anything even the most classified black ops projects had ever developed. "This ship, it's not one of ours," said Colonel Vasquez, shaking his head. "No nation on Earth has anything remotely close to this level of tech." "It fights for us," said Dr. Claire Tennyson, a scientist who had been studying the Zithar technology since the invasion began. "But we have no idea who is commanding it." "Who cares?" Vasquez growled. "It's the first real weapon we have against those bastards. We need to make contact." General Warren sighed, rubbing his temples. "And how exactly do you propose we do that, Colonel?" "We've sent transmissions on every frequency. We've used military codes, open channels. Hell, we even tried Morse code." No response. The room fell silent. Then, one of the analysts, a young officer named Lieutenant Parker, hesitantly raised a hand. "Sir, we did find something strange." Warren gestured for him to continue. Parker tapped on his tablet, pulling up a grainy infrared scan taken from one of the few operational satellites still in orbit. It showed the warship during its last battle. We ran an analysis on the energy signatures coming from the ship. The results were inconsistent. Inconsistent how? Claire asked, leaning forward. Parker hesitated before saying, "The energy readings match Zethar technology, but they also match something else." A deep unease settled over the room. "Something else?" Warren repeated, his voice grim. Parker swallowed hard. "Yes, sir. The energy signatures have traces of human origin." The silence stretched long and heavy. Vasquez was the first to break it. "That's impossible." "Maybe not," Claire whispered. She adjusted her glasses, her mind racing. "We assumed the Zithar were the first extraterrestrial race we encountered. But what if we were wrong? What if someone else, someone more advanced, has been watching us? What if they've been preparing for this war?" Warren's jaw tightened. "And they're using human technology?" Claire nodded slowly. "Or they're using humans." No one spoke. The idea was terrifying, but it made sense. The warship fought like it had experience with the Zithar. It used weapons that blended alien and human technology seamlessly. If it wasn't one of theirs, then what was it? And more importantly, who was inside it? Far across the ocean, deep beneath the waves, the warship rested in absolute silence. Inside, a figure stood before a glowing console, watching encrypted transmissions scroll across the screen. A message played on loop, desperate voices pleading for contact. The figure did not respond. Not yet. They simply stared at the image of Earth, their fingers tightening into a fist. It was not yet time to reveal the truth. But soon. The warship rose again 3 days later. It emerged from the Pacific near the remnants of Los Angeles, its obsidian hull gleaming beneath the rising sun. People hiding in the ruins watched in stunned silence as it hovered just above the water, completely still, as if waiting for something. Then, without warning, it moved. Not to attack, not to flee, but to respond. A single transmission cut through every remaining radio frequency on Earth, overriding military channels, civilian broadcasts, even the Zythar's encrypted communications. The voice that spoke was calm, deep, and unmistakably human. "This is the warship Noctis. We are here to fight. Do not interfere." It was the first confirmation the world had that someone, or something, was commanding the warship, and it raised more questions than answers. The resistance wasted no time. General Warren, along with Dr. Claire Tennyson and Colonel Vasquez, immediately ordered all remaining satellites to track Noctis. Fighter squadrons still capable of flying were scrambled, not to attack, but to make contact. Major Eric Grayson, one of the last ace pilots left in the shattered remains of the U.S. Air Force, led the mission. His squadron of 4 F-35s raced toward the coast, the jet's engines roaring as they locked onto Noctis's position. "This is Major Grayson, call sign Reaper. We are approaching the unidentified warship, requesting permission to establish contact." No response. "Noctis, this is Reaper Squadron. We are human. Repeat, we are human. We need to know who you are." Still nothing. The squadron slowed as they approached the warship. Up close, it was even more terrifying. No seams, no windows, no visible weapons. Yet they knew it was armed. The thing radiated an eerie presence, something unnatural, as if it didn't belong in this world. Then, as they flew in closer, Noctis moved. A split second later, every warning system in the jets blared. "Shit! It's locking onto us!" one of the pilots shouted. Grayson's grip tightened on the throttle. His instinct screamed at him to bank left, to run, to evade, but he forced himself to stay steady. "No sudden movements! Hold formation!" The pilots obeyed, despite their fear. Then, the voice returned. "You are too close." Grayson exhaled. At least they weren't dead yet. He flipped his comms to direct transmission. "Noctis, we're not here to fight you. We just need to know. Who are you? Are you human?" A long silence followed. Then, finally, "We were." The response sent a chill down Grayson's spine. He exchanged nervous glances with his squadmates, but before he could push further, Noctis vanished. One moment, it was there. The next, it had propelled itself away at impossible speed, leaving only a massive wave in its wake. Grayson and his squadron had no choice but to return to base, bringing with them the only clue humanity had received so far. Whoever was inside that ship, whatever they had become, had once been human. And now, they were something more. Something that could be the key to saving Earth, or dooming it. The revelation shook the world. "We were." Those two words haunted everyone who heard them. The warship Noctis was not just some alien savior, nor was it an advanced AI fighting on humanity's behalf. It was, or had been, human. But what did that mean? Had someone survived the initial invasion and somehow built this impossible machine? Had a lost crew been changed by something beyond human comprehension? Or was this an experiment gone horribly wrong, now returning to reclaim its place among its own kind? General Warren wasn't taking any chances. Inside the underground bunker, tension crackled through the command center. Maps, satellite images, and tactical data were spread across multiple screens, all dedicated to tracking Noctis. Warren stared at the satellite footage of its last sighting. "We need answers," he said. "Where is it now?" "Gone dark again," Lieutenant Parker reported. "No activity, no signals. It's like it vanished." "Damn it," Vasquez muttered. "We should have pushed harder, pressured them for more information." Claire Tennyson shook her head. "That could have been a mistake. Whoever they are, they're cautious. We need to earn their trust." Warren exhaled. "How do you suggest we do that?" Claire hesitated, then pulled up a file on her tablet. "There's something I haven't told you yet. Our tech team analyzed Noctis's transmission signal, and there was an anomaly." "What kind of anomaly?" Warren asked. "The voice," Claire said. "It wasn't just one voice, it was layered. There were multiple voices speaking at the same time, all overlapping." A cold chill ran through the room. Vasquez frowned. "So what? We're dealing with a crew?" "No." Claire swallowed. "We're dealing with something else." A collective Warren's grip on the table tightened. "Explain." "The way the voices merged wasn't natural. It wasn't a radio distortion or an AI-generated synthesis. It was like..." She trailed off before finally saying, "Like multiple minds speaking in perfect unison." No one spoke. Then, a new alarm blared across the command center. A red warning flashed on the main screen. "Incoming transmission. Source, Noctis." Everyone turned to face the screen as a voice, cold, layered, and unmistakably human, filled the room. "The Zithar are coming. They have tracked us. Prepare for war." And just like that, the signal cut out. Silence fell over the room. Then, outside, the ground trembled. A new fleet had arrived. The Zithar, realizing they had underestimated humanity's mysterious defender, were bringing their full force to Earth. The sky darkened as their warships descended, massive and endless. But for the first time, humanity was not alone. Far over the horizon, a shadow moved across the ocean. Noctis was returning, and this time it wasn't waiting. It was leading the charge. The sky burned. The Zithar fleet descended in full force, their massive warships blotting out the sun. Cities trembled under their shadows. Their weapons glowed with malevolent energy, ready to finish what they started, to wipe humanity from existence. But this time, humanity was not defenseless. Noctis rose from the Pacific like an avenging specter, its sleek, black hull slicing through the water before it took to the air. It moved like no other vessel, defying gravity, physics, and expectation. It was alone, outnumbered, but it did not hesitate. And then, without warning, it attacked. The first strike was blinding. Beams of light lanced out from Noctis, tearing through the lead Zithar warship. The alien shields flickered for a moment, then shattered as if they were made of glass. A second later, the entire ship exploded, raining molten debris across the sky. The remaining Zithar vessels hesitated. Humanity watched in awe. Noctis had killed a Zithar dreadnought in a single shot. For months, Earth's greatest weapons had been useless against the enemy's superior technology. Tanks, fighter jets, missiles, nothing had even scratched the Zithar armor. But Noctis, in one effortless movement, had destroyed one of their greatest warships. The tide had turned. And yet, the battle had only just begun. More Zithar ships surged forward, breaking formation, swarming toward Noctis like a pack of wolves descending on a lone hunter. They fired relentlessly, beams of red plasma streaking toward their mysterious enemy. Noctis did not run. It danced. The warship twisted through the air, evading attacks with movements that defied comprehension. It dodged fire that should have been impossible to avoid, countering with brutal precision. A barrage of kinetic projectiles punched through another Zithar destroyer, causing it to spiral downward in flames. On the ground, soldiers and civilians alike stood frozen, watching the impossible unfold. Noctis was winning. In the underground bunker, General Warren and his team scrambled to keep up. "Are you seeing this?" Vasquez shouted, gripping the edge of the table. "We all are," Claire whispered, unable to take her eyes off the battlefeed. Parker, his voice shaking, pointed at the screen. "Look, there's something else." The satellite feed zoomed in on Noctis. For the first time, they could see it in full detail. Along its sleek, black hull, something shifted. Patterns of glowing blue circuitry flickered across the surface, pulsing like veins. It was alive, changing, reacting to the battle as though it were more than just a ship. And then, it spoke again. "Stand ready. We cannot hold them alone." Warren's breath caught in his throat. "They're asking for help." "They trust us," Claire said, eyes wide. "Even if we don't understand them, they're fighting for us." Vasquez slammed a fist on the table. "Then what the hell are we waiting for? Mobilize every damn soldier we've got left!" Across the planet, what remained of humanity's forces roared to life. Fighter squadrons launched from makeshift runways. Missile silos, long thought useless against the Zithar, prepped for fire. Resistance fighters armed themselves, ready to take back their cities. For the first time in months, humanity was no longer running. They were fighting back. As the first wave of human forces joined the battle, Noctis surged forward, leading the charge. The Zithar had come to exterminate humanity. Instead, they had found something else, something they feared. And before the battle was over, they would learn why. The battle spread across the sky like wildfire. Humanity, once broken and scattered, now fought with a fury the Zithar had never seen before. Fighter jets wove between alien warships, unloading everything they had. Makeshift anti-air turrets, scavenged from whatever remained of Earth's military, opened fire from the ground. Rockets, bullets, and railgun slugs lit up the battlefield. But at the heart of it all was Noctis. It moved with terrifying precision, as if it could see the future. Every Zithar attack missed by a hair's breadth. Every counterstrike hit with deadly accuracy. It did not fight like a machine, nor like a human pilot. It fought like something beyond both. And the Zithar knew it. For the first time, the invaders hesitated. Their battle formations wavered. They had believed this to be an extermination, a final purge. Now they were losing. But the Zithar had not conquered half the galaxy by running from a fight. Their command ship, a monstrous vessel nearly a mile long, descended from the clouds. Its jagged, obsidian hull pulsed with crimson energy, its weapons charging with enough firepower to level an entire continent. And it was aiming directly at Noctis. Alarms blared through the underground command center. "General, we have a problem." Lieutenant Parker's voice was frantic. "Zithar flagship is charging something big, bigger than anything we've seen before." "Target?" Warren asked, though he already knew the answer. "Noctis," Parker confirmed. "They're trying to take it out in one shot." Claire Tennyson gripped the edge of the table. "Can it survive that?" No one had an answer. Vasquez clenched his jaw. "If they take out Noctis, we're screwed." Warren thought fast. "Get every long-range missile we have left and target that flagship. If we can disrupt the—" "No use, sir," Parker interrupted. "It's shielded. Our weapons won't scratch it." A silence fell over the room. The Zithar were making their move, and this time they weren't playing games. The Zithar flagship unleashed its attack. A single, blinding crimson beam lanced through the sky, aimed straight at Noctis. It cut through the air with impossible speed, disintegrating everything in its path. For the first time, Noctis did not dodge. It did not fire back. Instead, it stopped moving. And then, something happened that no one could explain. Noctis opened. Panels along its obsidian hull shifted, revealing an intricate network of glowing blue energy. Symbols, like ancient runes, flickered across its surface, and just as the Zithar's weapon was about to hit, Noctis absorbed the blast. The crimson energy struck its hull, but instead of exploding, it vanished, swallowed whole. The ship trembled for a brief moment as its circuits flared even brighter. Then it released the energy back. A pulse of blue light erupted from Noctis, racing across the battlefield. It struck the Zithar flagship first, and within seconds, its shields collapsed. The monstrous warship, the heart of the invasion, began to break apart. The energy spread to the rest of the fleet. Zithar ships flickered, their systems failing. Some lost control and spiraled into the ocean. Others simply vanished, disintegrating into nothing. On the ground, humanity watched as the impossible unfolded. The Zithar fleet, which had once been invincible, was dying. And Noctis stood at the center of it all, glowing like a god of war. Then, for the first time, the Zithar ran. The surviving warships turned and fled, retreating into the void of space. The once mighty invaders who had terrorized Earth for months were now desperate to escape. And Noctis let them go. The war was over. Across the planet, humanity erupted into celebration. People emerged from bunkers, from hiding places, from the ruins of fallen cities. They looked to the sky and saw, for the first time in months, victory. But the war had come at a cost. Millions were dead. The world was broken. The damage was beyond comprehension. And Noctis? It hovered in silence, watching. In the command center, no one spoke. They simply stared at the live feed of Noctis, still floating above the ocean. Finally, Warren exhaled. "We need answers." As if in response, a new transmission flickered across the screen. "Humanity is safe, for now." Claire leaned forward. "Who are you?" There was a pause. Then, the voice returned. "We were once human, but we are something more now. We were taken, changed, we fought to return. Now we fight for you." The weight of those words settled over everyone. Warren's throat tightened. "And what happens now?" Another silence. Then, "Now we wait, because they will return. And next time, We may not be enough." And with that, Noctis descended beneath the waves, vanishing into the abyss once more. The war was won, but the battle for humanity's survival had only just begun. The ocean swallowed Noctis whole, leaving behind nothing but silence. The war was over, but its scars remained. Cities lay in ruins, entire countries were unrecognizable, and the skies were filled with the wreckage of both human and alien ships. For the first time in months, Earth had a moment of peace, but it did not last. General Elias Warren stood at the edge of what had once been the Pacific coastline, staring out at the waves. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the water, but all he could think about was the warship that lay beneath it. Noctis. It had saved them, changed the course of the war in a single battle, and then vanished as if it had never existed. But Warren knew better. It was still down there, and he needed to know why. Claire Tennyson stood beside him, arms crossed as she scanned the ocean with a pair of binoculars. "It's been a week," she muttered. "No movement, no signals, just gone." Warren exhaled through his nose. "It's not gone. It's waiting." "For what?" Claire asked. Warren didn't answer, because he had a feeling they were going to find out soon enough. 2 days later, they received the first sign that the war wasn't truly over. It came from the ISS, the last surviving fragment of humanity's space presence. The station had gone dark during the invasion, its astronauts cut off from Earth as the Zithar took control of the skies. Most had assumed the crew was dead. But then, without warning, a single transmission came through. It was a distress call. A broken, static-filled voice gasped over the radio. "This is Commander Hayes. ISS. We are not alone up here. Something is moving outside. It's not Zithar, not human. It's just watching us." Then silence. Claire's blood ran cold as she played the transmission again. "They're back," Vasquez growled. "Or worse, something else is." Warren stared at the audio file, jaw clenched. The war had ended, but something told him that humanity's fight for survival had only just begun. And Noctis had known it all along. They weren't just waiting. They were preparing. Far below the surface, in the crushing darkness of the deep, Noctis stirred. It had been watching, listening, waiting. The Zithar were only the beginning. Something worse was coming, and this time Noctis wasn't sure if even they were enough to stop it. The ISS remained unresponsive. Despite repeated attempts to re-establish contact, Earth's last space station had gone dark. No more distress signals, no life signs detected. Just silence. At first, Warren had hoped it was a system failure, a malfunction, but deep down, he knew better. Something had been up there, watching, waiting. And now, the ISS was gone. "Still nothing?" Claire asked, leaning over Parker's shoulder as he worked furiously at the communications terminal. "No response, ma'am." Parker shook his head. "Last ping from the station was 72 hours ago, but since then, dead silence." Vasquez crossed his arms. "I don't like this. The Zithar retreated. Why would they send something back so soon?" Claire glanced at the grainy image of the ISS still displayed on the bunker's monitor. What if it wasn't the Zithar? The room fell silent. It was a terrifying thought. For months, Earth had been under the belief that the Zithar were the greatest threat the universe had to offer. Their ships, their weapons, their sheer dominance had made them seem like the apex predators of the galaxy. But Noctis had defeated them. And if Noctis had been preparing for something worse, then what did that mean for humanity? Then the alarms blared. Parker's console flickered to life, a new incoming transmission overriding all channels. Unlike before, There was no voice, no desperate message from a stranded astronaut. Just a single image. A distorted, static-filled frame from an ISS security camera. It showed the inside of the station. Floating debris. Equipment torn apart. But in the center of the frame, near one of the observation windows, something was visible. Something that shouldn't have been there. A figure. Humanoid in shape, but wrong. Too tall, too thin, too still. It had no spacesuit, no breathing apparatus, no visible technology, just a black silhouette, featureless and unmoving, watching. Then, the image cut to static. No one in the bunker spoke. Finally, Warren turned to Claire. "Get me Noctis." Deep in the abyss, Noctis woke. Its sensors had already registered the anomaly before the humans even saw the image. The Silent Watcher. The thing aboard the ISS. They had seen it before. And they had feared it. For all their power, all their advancements, there were things even Noctis did not dare challenge lightly. The Zithar had been brutal, but they had been predictable. Warships, armies, battles fought with strategy and tactics. But this was something else, something that did not conquer. It consumed. Noctis had fought it before, and it had barely survived. It had come for humanity, and this time, Noctis was unsure if even they could stop it. The world held its breath. The image from the ISS spread quickly among Earth's surviving military leaders. Some dismissed it as a distortion, a malfunction of dying equipment. Others, like General Warren, knew better. Something was out there. Something worse than the Zithar. And if Noctis was afraid of it, then humanity had every reason to be terrified. Noctis stirred in the abyss. Inside, within the shifting walls of its impossibly advanced corridors, something pulsed, an intelligence beyond human comprehension, piecing together fragmented data. This was not the first time they had seen them. The Voidborn. That was what Noctis had called them in a time long before Earth had known of war beyond the stars. They were not invaders like the Zithar. They did not arrive in warships, nor did they make demands. The Voidborn did not conquer. They erased. Worlds, civilizations, entire empires. They were there one moment and gone the next, leaving behind nothing but the echo of what once was. Noctis had encountered them before, long ago, back when they had still been human, back when they had lost. In the underground bunker, Warren stared at the live satellite feed, which now showed an anomaly in Earth's upper atmosphere, a distortion, a hole in reality itself, spreading like a wound in space. "We need to act now," Vasquez growled. "Noctis has to tell us what the hell we're dealing with." As if in response, the comms crackled to life. "You have seen them." The voice was layered, more than one but still eerily human. Warren grabbed the radio. "Noctis, what are they?" A long silence. Then, "The end of all things." The weight of those words settled over the room. Claire swallowed hard. "Can they be stopped?" "No." The answer was immediate, final, but then, "Not alone." Warren stood straighter. "Then tell us what to do." Another silence. Then the ocean boiled. Far off the Pacific coast, Noctis rose. It did not emerge quietly this time. A wall of water crashed outward as the warship took to the sky, its once dark hull now glowing. Energy pulsed across its surface, symbols and circuitry shifting, evolving. It was changing, preparing for war. If we do not fight now, Earth will not exist tomorrow. The ground trembled, the sky tore open, and the Voidborn arrived. The first Voidborn appeared at the edges of the atmosphere, distortions in reality itself, shifting black masses that flickered in and out of existence like living shadows. They did not descend in ships. They did not need to. They were the invasion. Across the world, every screen, every radio, every device capable of transmitting data went haywire. Strange whispers bled through the static, unintelligible, but somehow felt in the bones of every living human. Then the screaming began. In what remained of Washington, survivors looked up and saw the sky crack. The distortions spread like shattered glass, and through them, dark figures began to step through. They had no true form, no bodies, only outlines, suggestions of shape, flickering in and out of reality. Some were tall, with elongated limbs that moved in unnatural angles. Others crawled, twisting across the air as if gravity did not apply to them. Then, the first human collapsed. No wounds, no blood, just gone. Their body crumpled, eyes wide, mouth open in a silent scream. One by one, more people fell, their bodies lifeless husks before they even hit the ground. The Voidborn did not attack. They fed. Far above the battlefield, Noctis activated. A pulse of blue energy rippled outward, countering the unseen force that had begun to leach life from the ground below. The fallen stopped collapsing. The distortions slowed. And for the first time, the Voidborn noticed Noctis. They turned in unison, hundreds of flickering shapes twisting toward the warship that should not exist. Then they screamed. It was not a sound meant for human ears. It rattled through the atmosphere, through space itself, a warping, wrong noise that sent shudders of nausea through every living thing on the planet. Noctis did not falter. It fired. Not with missiles, not with lasers, with light. A pure, searing energy beam tore through the sky, striking the first Voidborn in its center. For a moment, the thing shattered, its form breaking apart, glitching, losing cohesion. Then it ceased to be, gone, erased. Not even dust remained. The Voidborn recoiled. For the first time in known history, something had hurt them, but Noctis had made a mistake, because now the Voidborn saw it not as an anomaly, but as prey. The sky boiled as the entities surged toward Noctis, faster than anything should move, warping space itself as they approached. The warship did not flee, it charged. Blades of pure energy erupted from its sides, crackling with blue fire. More beams lanced outward, tearing through the enemy ranks. The battle was chaos, physics itself breaking as Noctis fought the impossible. On the ground, Warren and his people watched, helpless. "This isn't like the Zithar," Claire whispered. "This isn't a war. This is a massacre," Vasquez finished. Because even as Noctis fought like a god of war, the Voidborn kept coming. They did not die like the Zithar. They did not fear like the Zithar. And worst of all, for every one Noctis destroyed, 2 more took its place. Deep inside Noctis, systems flickered. The ship was holding its ground, but calculations were grim. They could not win alone. They had said as much before, which meant it was time to awaken what they had buried. Deep within the heart of Noctis, something stirred, something ancient, something forgotten. The warship's energy levels spiked, its form shifting yet again, new symbols emerging across its hull. Then, across every radio, every speaker, every device on Earth, a new message played. "This is Noctis. Humanity, heed us now. Your world stands at the edge of oblivion. We cannot fight alone. It is time for you to rise." The message was not just a call, it was an activation, and across the world something woke up. Beneath old military bases, long-buried projects roared to life. Factories that had been left to decay stirred. Weapons hidden beneath the ruins of Earth's past wars powered on. And more importantly, people heard the call. Survivors who had lost everything. Soldiers who had thought the war was over. Scientists who had long been working in secret. Across the world, humanity's last defenses awakened. And for the first time in history, they would go to war against the unknown, against gods, against the Voidborn, and they would not go down without a fight. Across the world, the call of Noctis echoed. In the ruins of old cities, buried beneath the ashes of war, machines stirred. Deep underground, hidden away in military bunkers long thought abandoned, secret projects activated. And within the hearts of survivors, those who had lost everything, those who had been waiting for something, anything, a fire ignited. Humanity had been broken, beaten, left to die. But Noctis had called upon them, and they answered. The first to rise were the hidden war machines, old automated battle platforms, buried beneath the rubble of fallen nations, powered on. Autonomous railgun turrets, once meant for wars between humans, reoriented their targeting systems toward the sky. Prototype exosuits, never before deployed in battle, surged with energy as long-dormant AIs activated, scanning for threats. And then, the first counterattack began. From the ruins of North America, missile silos that had been sealed since the first days of the Zythar invasion launched their payloads. A dozen tactical warheads soared into the sky, not aimed at ships, but at the void itself. They struck the rifts where the Voidborn were emerging, detonating in a fiery explosion that rippled across reality. For a brief moment, the cracks in the sky wavered. It wasn't much, but it was something. And across the world, others followed suit. In Eastern Europe, resistance fighters who had once fought a hopeless battle against the Zythar now turned their salvaged weapons toward the sky. Energy rifles, scavenged from fallen alien warriors, fired upward at the flickering forms of the Voidborn, forcing them back, if only for a moment. In Japan, an experimental mech program, abandoned when the war seemed lost, suddenly reactivated. Massive humanoid war machines, half-finished but deadly nonetheless, stood up for the first time. Their pilots, many of whom had never trained for actual combat, climbed into their cockpits and prepared for war. And in Africa, hidden beneath the dunes of the Sahara, a lost project, one that had never been meant to see the light of day, came online. Something massive began to rise, sending tremors through the earth. Noctis had not just called for soldiers, it had called for everything. Above the battlefield, Noctis fought like a cornered beast. The Voidborn swarmed it, shifting and changing as they attacked. They did not use weapons in the way humanity understood. Their very presence was a weapon. Their touch corrupted, their mere existence warped reality. Noctis's defenses were failing. The once impenetrable armor now bore fractures, its circuits flickering as energy drained faster than it could replenish. The warship knew it could not hold the line alone, but it didn't need to, because humanity had risen. The first wave of counterattacks struck. Missiles, railgun blasts, energy pulses stolen from the Zythar. The Voidborn reeled. They had come expecting a slaughter. Instead, they found a war, and then the sky erupted. From the depths of space, new shapes began to emerge. Not Voidborn, not Zythar, something else, something old, something that had been watching. And Noctis, even as it struggled to stay airborne, sent out one last message to humanity. They are not the only ones who heard us. The battle for Earth was no longer just humanity versus the Voidborn. It had just become something much bigger. And the war was only beginning. The sky was no longer Earth's alone. As the Voidborn descended upon the planet, feeding on reality itself, another force emerged from the stars. Ships unlike anything humanity had ever seen broke through the darkness, sleek and vast, humming with power that defied comprehension. They did not belong to the Zythar. They did not belong to the Voidborn. They were something else, something ancient, something that had seen the Voidborn before and survived. Noctis recognized them. They have come. The warship's voice echoed through every surviving communication system on Earth. The ones who stood before the darkness. The ones who lost, but refused to be erased. From the newly arrived fleet, golden beams of energy lanced toward the rifts in the sky, striking the broken fractures of space itself. Where they hit, the Voidborn recoiled, their forms flickering, screaming. Humanity watched in stunned silence as the invincible horrors that had nearly ended them struggled. And then Noctis spoke again. "We fight together." It was not a request. It was a command. Across the battlefield, humanity roared to life. Fighter jets weaved through the sky, launching missiles at the weakened Voidborn. Railgun platforms fired payloads designed to tear through alien metal. But now they were used to strike against something beyond matter itself. The experimental war machines from Japan surged forward, their pilots throwing caution aside as they waded into battle. Mechs the size of skyscrapers slammed into Voidborn with all the force of a dying species refusing to fade. And in Africa, the secret project hidden beneath the sand rose completely. A weapon from a forgotten era, a last resort megastructure humanity had never dared to activate, now stood against the end of all things. It fired once, and the resulting energy blast split the clouds, carving a rift through the swarm of Voidborn. The combined force of Noctis, humanity, and the newcomers from the stars began to turn the tide. The Voidborn had not expected this. They had consumed civilizations before. But this was different, because for the first time, the prey had fought back, and won. As the battle raged, Noctis focused on its final task. The rift in the sky, the wound in reality that had allowed the Voidborn through, had to be sealed. It did not have the power alone. But with the energy of the Allied fleet, with humanity's final reserves, with the last desperate hope of an entire planet, it could be done. This is our final act. Noctis burned with energy, its body fracturing as it channeled everything it had left. The warship, once a ghost, once a mystery, became a beacon. A pulse of blinding light erupted from its core, expanding outward. It struck the rift. The Voidborn screamed. And then, the sky closed. Reality snapped back into place, the unnatural scars vanishing as if they had never been there. The Voidborn that remained, cut off from their source, flickered violently before collapsing into nothingness. The invasion had failed. Earth was saved. But Noctis was gone. The world stood in stunned silence. The Voidborn were defeated. The sky was whole again. Humanity had survived. But Noctis, the warship that had led them through the darkness, had given everything. Its wreckage lay scattered across the Pacific, burning ruins sinking slowly into the waves. There was no transmission, no final message. Noctis had done what it was created to do. It had protected. Claire stood on the shore, staring at the ocean, tears in her eyes. "They saved us." Vasquez stood beside her, his jaw clenched. "Not just us," he muttered. "They saved everything. Above them, the alien fleet lingered in the sky. The beings who had come to humanity's aid did not land, did not ask for gratitude. They simply watched. And then, as silently as they had arrived, they vanished. 3 weeks later, long after the world had begun to rebuild, after survivors had emerged and nations had reformed, after humanity had begun to ask what comes next, a single transmission played. Weak, fractured, barely audible. "We are still here." The signal came from a deep beneath the Pacific, where Noctis had fallen, where something still lived. And humanity knew that whatever was left of Noctis, whatever remained of those who had once been human, they were not done yet. The war had ended, but the next age of humanity was only beginning, and Noctis would be there when it arrived.